everybody assumes, okay, you have chain A and chain B, and I want to move token to from A to B, or let's say information from A to B. I don't even care if it's a token. They all think, well, you have to have you lose your trustlessness because you have to have a trusted third party in the middle. And I say no. I mean, yes, if you go to the Ethereum crowd and the way pretty much everything works there, yeah, it wouldn't work because they're inert. Ethereum can't inspect the other chain to see does that balance correct, or does that information actually exist the way it needs to?
Right. Well, it could if you worked to integrate the protocols tightly, right? You can go to the ETH Foundation
Yes,
and
that's
say
EIP,
bridge to my chain, right? And that's that would be the stable ICANN way of doing things to do it way, right? Like if you really want to have two chains that tie together and you don't have a mathematically bulletproof solution to the problem.
Yeah.
And that's also operationally manageable, right? That you can run in a way that you don't have to monitor for it falling over.
Well, and that's why, I mean, you can, the other option.
And that you don't have to trust somebody that might mess with it. Right, like it's three problems. It's a bear.
Yeah. It's not an easy problem, but it's all that's why I say it's not the problem we should be trying to fix. But whatever.
The other thing is lower hanging fruit out there.
to have a smart chain in the middle, like say that's why Dragon Chain exists, and Dragon Chain as it is doesn't come out of the box with decentralized consensus. It comes with a hybrid blockchain that plugs into other blockchains that you can run your own data. And for most purposes in industry, in the world, that's good enough. But if you're going to do something like this, then you need to build a network of these smart blockchains that can inspect the other blockchains, and that you might have a different settlement cadence, but essentially the consensus could be reached in the middle, still in a decentralized way. That yes, that account did have that balance and they are transferring it to this and it is a valid address. So we are going to say yes. And then the other contract can be called. And, so essentially you could still do it. And we have, there's
right. But then the other question becomes, right, like how proof from attack is that decentralized system? Like,
but how proof from attack is Solana, right? I mean, it's like,
right. I mean, if you want to use like a middle bridge that's also decentralized, is it secure decentralized in the face of people building society scale wealth systems off of it? Like
nobody's building.
The answer to that question is definitely we don't know, right?
Well, and Ethereum itself has there have been the original DAO was a brilliant experiment that resulted in a massive failure, which was so valuable.
The lesson of the failure was the failure for the failure itself in a way, right? Like, you reached a little too far in one iteration to expect any other result.
And I think the real lesson, because that was what I was expecting, but the thing I didn't expect was the exposure and the failure of human courage. Right.
Somebody had their ass in that basket, and they thought it was foolproof, like an idiot. And they got pwned, and
or they didn't care because they knew.
Hey, I control enough PR that I can change the chain instead of take loss.
I would disagree. That I doubt that they thought it was foolproof. I think they knew what was foolproof was their puppet strings on Vitalik, whoever that was. I don't know who it was, but somebody knew. Yeah, somebody knew that they could control it.
We'll ever probably know. It was probably a consortium of people. There were probably the person who was probably most interested in it probably did a lot of convincing and not a lot of talking, convincing of allies and not a lot of talking.
That's how they all work. Just like
we won't know who's really, really fired up.
Just like the token launch itself.
Right. It's a drop in the bucket.
The people that controlled that we didn't know until this year. So that was interesting, wasn't it? Anyway.
Yeah.
So great question. Anything else to add?
Yeah, dude. We can move past. The only other thing that I would say is, this reminds me a lot of when computers were getting to the point where microprocessor clock speed was getting to be too difficult of a marketing term for the safety engineers to feel comfortable with, in terms of just like heat sinks in, like when they were getting to Pentium 3 and they were trying to go up to like an absurd level of megahertz. So then they decided to do multi-chip And then eventually they smartly integrated multi-core chips, right? And that's where we are today. Like if you need more CPUs in your chipset, you can buy like, you know, a custom tailored number of CPU cores in a single fabrication. So it's secure. It's not wired together with solder, right? But for a while there, you could get like 2 Pentium 2s to make a Pentium 2x2 done point to point in 1998. And it was a disaster that probably lit some people's homes on fire. And I think that it's very similar to what we're looking at right now.
Well, the economies in that stuff is really
bridges.
funny. Yeah.
And I think the thing is we need to be wary of burning people's houses down right now because we need to be winning hearts and minds.
It's a good point. That would be bad. It's like old Christmas tree stuff. Don't the lights?
Give them a legit reason to hate us because right now they only have illegitimate ones.
Yes. Now I want to bring up one more thing that I forgot that does fit here. That conceptually I'm going to bring this up because I want to see this happen. I know of one project that I'm close to convincing them to do this, but essentially the perfect thing, and it could be applied to cross chain, but on a single chain, it's even important and it hasn't happened. I mean, imagine if Ethereum embedded DEX. It wasn't a Uniswap. It wasn't a separate thing. It was actually embedded. So maybe the efficiencies would be, I don't know. I don't care about that side of it for the purposes of this discussion. But instead, it would be set so that if you launch token X on this new platform, it will only be accepted. You might be able to place it on there, but it will only be usable on that platform if liquidity is present. So essentially, you can't just launch a token and it's spam, right? You have to have liquidity sitting there, and that liquidity and that you essentially
can also use black hole escrow.
Yeah, exactly.
Either party breaches, the funds revert to a black hole instead.
I can send money to you and not have the other currency. I don't have to have ETH to send token X to you because the miners can take the token X and exchange it for ETH or US dollar token or whatever the heck they want, because there's liquidity there. And so they can say, oh, I'm going to choose to accept that because there is liquidity there. I'm not going to choose to accept that because, it's like, so all of a sudden, it's like you have to maintain the liquidity to keep this stuff moving. Anyway, and you can use cross-chain, and you can do some other very, very interesting things with that. And I'm surprised no one's done it yet. I mentioned on a show a year or two ago.
So Joe, tell me what's wrong with this idea, because I think just from a pure game theory standpoint, you could win with this. Say you have a service on chain A, right? Based on a smart contract where you have to stake value with it, equivalent to that collateralizes the value you want to lend on chain B, because essentially what this is like borrow lend situation, right? Your collateral sits in a strict burn situation where if you dump out on somebody, you lose your collateral.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's what they.
But the trick of it is if you want to send assets across the other chains, you're borrowing the assets on chain B temporarily while it all settles, then they revert to black hole instead of to you if it fails. So both sides lose something if they mess with the other transaction just to force it to fail, right?
Yeah.
You could have some jerk who is really hell-bent on watching the world burn post a stake just so they could make somebody lose money tragically. But nobody would enrich themselves off of it.
And you could do things in there to also gain reputation before you do it, because a lot of people might not join in on something unless they know, what's your reputation and things like this. Do you have you ever burned this? And it's like, no, it's I don't know.
You can even make the fails kind of fun, right? The fails can not revert to a black hole, but revert to a charity wallet or just some random arbitrary wallet that has been used recently. Like
hey, go to a lottery or something.
Somebody screwed up escrow ferry.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many things they could do. It's like, oh, we're gonna copy Ethereum, we're gonna put it over here. It's like, oh, it's cheaper. It's like, why is it cheaper? Nobody's using it. And so you do this, like, why don't they actually add something? At least Litecoin, when they took and copied Bitcoin, they changed all the parameters, right? They changed the algorithm for mining. That was brilliant, right? And yet every time they copied Ethereum, It's like they haven't really done much. I mean, like, why is there no
Yeah.
innovation? It's because the venture capitalists are involved. I wouldn't even
No,
say
I
you're
don't. I
behind
don't think
all of it.
I don't think it's the venture capitalists.
I do.
You want to think it is? I think it is literally the nature of the governance beast they created when they decided governance was going to be important. Like when they decided we were going to focus on governance, they ruined it.
Who's ETH or what?
Yeah, when ETH said like
I'm not even talking
governance
about ETH.
matters, and they started talking about the problem of unspoken power structures and
projects.
like Vlad Zamfir showed up and said, unstoppable code's evil, even though that's exactly what we should be building.
Yeah, that is ridiculous. I don't even pay attention to any of that crap because it's all drama and it's all funded by either nefarious dark money from either you call it deep state.
Well, Vitalik drank the bug protein enhanced Kool-Aid.
Yeah, or venture capitalists that are not here to actually do any innovation. They're just here to churn. It's like,
but luckily, there's still ETC.
So, yeah, there are good things in the world, but look at look at Ethereum Classic and look at Bitcoin Cash. And I, as an engineer, if I were to look at this blind, or if I were to look at this objectively, those are the superior one, either for philosophical reasons or engineering reasons, which is what matters. And they're not, and I guess you would say Bitcoin Cash is getting a lot more adoption. I've not paid attention to Ethereum Classic lately, but I'm a fan because
there's some stuff happening there, man. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
there's neat stuff. Like I literally ran into a person for the first time talking to me about crypto, and his analogy for understanding what Rivet did, the kind of people we provided services to, was literally this game he can't stop playing on ETC.
So is Rivet built on Ethereum Classic?
Rivet supports Ethereum Classic. So we I think we handle like something to the tune. So they used to have a public gateway called Ether Cluster that was maintained by community devs, right? It'd be like if Peter ran a public gateway for ETH, but no, right? It'd be like the least customer friendly public gateway ever. But sorry, Peter. I love you, man, but you got to unblock me on X before I'll stop browsing you.
There's too many Greg.
Yeah, no, ETC is taking a lot on themselves for the community, right? And they now work with us to do that. We provide the gateway.
Okay. So.
Well, I'm a big fan. Okay, next question. Let's go to next question.
Next question.
Which is also I am for I am. If blockchain bridges were simple to do and grandma could make them, how big of a difference would it make in the market from a number go up perspective? Also, if this existed in the 2017 bull market, how would that have changed things? My quick thoughts: cross blockchain liquidity would be affected and possible arbitrage opportunities could be created as a byproduct. It could even help develop smaller blockchains that are less popular but have a great utility. If you know about, in other words, it could stimulate growth and attention to lesser known blockchains. Lisa, you want to start it?
No.
Greg, you start.
Yeah, I think cross-chain bridges are getting funds to a bridged chain when you're trying to draw activity from another one, right? Like, are you trying to build integrated applications? Because that's what I'm wondering here is like, why aren't people just cutting out the bridge mechanism and having like a home anchor application that connects to ETH, and then the flow of your application itself is the bridge to your application on the other chain. I wonder at the utility of centralized bridges, because really what people want to do is do stuff, right? They don't want to have to go through the steps manually. And if you're already doing something that is kind of risky, there's not a whole lot of reason to intermediate with an additional single point of failure, right? Like having a bridge and then also having to build an application that depends on that bridge being stable is sort of like risk that you can't control if you're building an application on the sort of the satellite chain. And then the other piece of it too is you have to have good infrastructure. Like you can't just have bridges if you can't execute a decent volume of queries stably.
But if it was simple, if it was already there, how would it change the market? I think that's an
if it were simple. Okay. Well, if it were simple, it would be we wouldn't be building monolithic chains is what would happen, right? Like we would have thousands of little chains that were purpose built, sort of like the original idea behind Ethereum execution environments in ETH 2.0 that they still haven't started building towards, because they decided it was more important to beat Bitcoin to proof of work and suck up to the globalists. Right? They originally were going to skip doing that until after they built the stateless execution environments and had it so there were sort of micro chains committing back to the beacon chain and all that stuff. Right? We all remember that cool design. It was probably a neater way to go, but there's a lot of uncertainty in it too. So I understand why people were, keen to do an easier thing that also was good PR.
Okay.
Sorry,
I don't know.
I was in the weeds with that. I was on the camp that was like, why are we doing this? Why are we banning this? Because the execution environment idea was really cool. Like, imagine a project has its own flavor of node, and they don't keep track of state. They just, outside of sessions, they just spin up an instance, pull state from any other active client cluster, and it goes on that way. And essentially a session will close, it'll roll up, and it'll commit back to ETH. You can scale ETH pretty vertically that way, I guess.
Because it can't scale on its own, that's for sure.
If this was easy.
So Lisa, what do you think at a high level, like, not about how or anything else, but if they were so simple that anyone could set one up, how would it affect? He does specifically say in a number go up way. What would it do? How would it affect things?
I'm a little confused. So like anyone could set one up,
a bridge up, yeah,
and anyone could start a coin. It would be like the Fed printing money, right? Like if anybody could create a coin and anyone could swap it with anything, then it would just hyperinflate all of it, wouldn't it?
There would be some things that would fail to take off, right? They would never develop value, right? They would suck value out in terms of what got bridged to them. And then it would sort of be like getting rugged by an ICO, right? Like where they didn't plan to build anything. You just paid a bunch of ETH and they sent you their dummy coin and then they disappeared.
And can I bring up this because this is, in my opinion, that's the key. What Lisa brings up is the key to this whole thing. As of right now, we have two. Why do we only have two? I mean, I say we have two. It's like if you go and you just go to the barber shop and you ask them about crypto, it's like, what do you mean?
2 to 4, Bitcoin, depending on how
Bitcoin, Ethereum. But as I'm saying, if you're a little more technically minded, or if you watch some of the horrible people on financial news, you might know a few. You might know about Ripple. You might know about.
There are 10 or 12 actually.
And guess what? You don't know about Monero if you're one of those people, because they're never going to allow that to be brought out on air, right? On CNBC or Fox Business, right? So
that's why Zcash was smart to design in the option to decide to comply.
Yeah. Now here's the thing though. The important point of this, in my opinion, why do we only have that many? And it's still early, but it's not that early, right?
Why is there no EIP to turn ETH private? Right? Or
okay, real quick here. Let me finish this. Why does that exist? Because in our infinite wisdom, we've taken it upon ourselves to think of these things as currencies. They're currencies. They're cryptocurrencies. They're currencies. It is the same reason that within the same span of time, there were not 2 or 4 or 10 major websites in the same amount of time developed. Every website had its own purpose. You had one website that I was like, oh, we're gonna.
Well, except like GeoCities, right? Like people did throw up a lot of clone shit there, and it was kind of a beautiful mess.
If you talk about GeoCities, I'm talking about a freaking Gutenberg project. I'm talking about Amazon. I'm talking about your fucking bank site, your fucking insurance website. They all had their own websites. They didn't say, oh, well, we have to all fit into this. And now the powers that be realized that was an issue. So they started just like, we need Facebook and we need Twitter and we need what became big tech. Everything's freaking centralized.
It's way crazier than you even know.
But the fucking problem that our industry has is that so few of these tokens have any fucking utility. Okay. And secondarily,
and we're afraid
that
to
should
build
be
utility too.
the ones
We're
that
afraid to build
should,
utility.
the ones that did and that should have, that should be leading that charge.
Dude, people saw utility projects get shot in the face the first through the door, right? That's what happened. Is they went for the useful ones.
They should.
They wanted to make sure there was no utility. They shot you guys, right? Like the reason that you and library got targeted.
I'm trying to get to a
not
point.
Accidental. It was.
I'm trying to
quite
get to
on
a point when
purpose.
they
needed you not to ruin their narrative by building around it.
Okay, let me finish this. The they doesn't just include Jamie Dimon. It's also those fuckers in Bitcoin Core. I'm telling you, it's also those fuckers
and researchers
that live
at the
on the Ethereum Foundation.
Technology Institute for Information Warfare.
Okay, those guys are the ones that, in my opinion, are most responsible. They're the ones that should have known. Look, my project that I love, that I built, it's my baby, does this stuff. I might expand on that utility. I might realize, oh, nobody's using that utility, so maybe we phase that out over time. That's awesome. The problem is they went into this tribalism mode, and I will tell you, some of it is
tribalism mode. By the way, they didn't just go into it. It's not their fault. The tribalism was structured.
Yes,
that was an active incursion activity.
The entire
this was not like we screwed up. They were fucking with us with military grade information warfare techniques.
They were around. If you were around during the Bitcoin,
I'm not even kidding. It's not a conspiracy theory. Documents are available.
If you were around during the Bitcoin block size wars, you would know, like, those, they had paid people that would come on and attack anybody who said anything that was outside of what their myopic vision was. And and at first it was very, I had this freaking red pantsed hipster that was attacking me for something when we first came out with Dragon Chain, right? And it's like,
and they all seem very well credentialed and educated, but you can never find out anything about them.
I don't know about that. They seem very emotional and stupid, and prone to make judgment calls where they didn't even understand the question, with a laugh at the end. So it was intended. It's obvious now. I understand it. That's how paid trolls work, that they're there to demoralize.
You can see the same thing at work in test queue.
Yeah. So that's the problem. If these tokens had utility and they weren't all competing for the same freaking use case, which is, it's transfer of currency, which, by the way, and I didn't get to say that, but
everybody got afraid to build one that wasn't being
Bitcoin, even on their expressed core utility, has backed away. It's like, it's not cash. It's digital gold. It's not cash. It's like, why isn't it cash? It's like,
the crazy thing is, Sashi would have been pissed, because he would just be like, I designed it to make everybody have to compromise and slow down while we worked it up the faster. It's not supposed to be a replacement for fiat right away. It's a starting point.
Either to be present for the collapse of the Western currency systems, or if it was to cause them, I don't know.
It would have been workable.
And
certainly, as soon as we had a backup.
I would even propose that it was probably put in place to attract other nations to use it directly before it's rugged, because I almost guarantee that you think that people say, the government is involved.
I don't think so anymore.
I
used to think that maybe, but now I feel like maybe they were blindsided by it, and it took them.
I'm sure some people in the government were, but if you think that they used cryptographic curves and that Satoshi knew about some 0-day things that no one else knew about, I guarantee there's some holes in that curve that are probably extremely advanced. So
the way that I think it's fair to characterize Joe is this. Here's an analogy for you. You know how there's that scene where V's getting on the elevator, and just as the cops show up, and he's like, I didn't expect London's finest to be so Johnny on the spot. Bad luck, chummy. We were already on the way here.
Who's this?
Right, they were already developing information warfare techniques to use on the internet when we popped up as a threat.
They
just had to take a minute to figure out how to turn it on us.
Yeah. Now, so All that said, if they had utility, you would have thousands of very valuable tokens. And yes, the government's prevented a lot of the potentials because they just do not understand what it's there for, and especially in utility case. They see it for sure everything as a crypto. But that's, I think, maybe my complaint is that the government obviously is going to see the threat to the dollar and therefore come after it. But the problem is that our own industry still sees all of these things as currencies, and it's BS.
Well, I think the scary thing is the fear, right? I think that people are literally like, you remember 2018 when they started like picking off exchanges? We were running order book infrastructure at the time, and we're like, shit, we better issue a statement saying that we're gonna, vet anything that we put up. And luckily, we don't host anything that they went after. What was the name of that first one that went down? It was like Ether something, Ether Delta.
Oh yeah,
they went after Ether Delta first, and they named a couple coins. They're like, well, thank God those aren't on here. Let's issue a statement saying we'll never host those, and we're going to check all the ones we host first, right?
Yeah.
People stopped making new ideas at that point. They were like, BTC hasn't killed this one yet. Let's make a competitor to them, right? Yep. And then all the great ideas around like, let's build a decentralized Uber and screw over the taxi cab unions forever.
Oh yeah,
right. Like
those
went away. Nobody's out there trying to build a fucking dockless scooter protocol that would be unstoppable.
Because Uber doesn't want that.
Contest.
Uber and Lyft get together and they collaborate.
We could causing fucking decentralized chaos right now if they had not intervened as they did.
So to solve all of that, yesterday the Fed announced that they are not changing rates, but later in the press conference, Chair Powell said that he is anticipating a recession within the next year. So if, it sounds like number go up caused a lot of this problem. If the dollar hyperinflates, goes to zero, if we have a hyperinflation recession, and dollars are worth nothing, then utility has to rise or the coins go away. The coins lose value too.
Well, there's going to be a mass boom before this. It's not coming in 2024 by my estimation. It's coming in 2025. There's going to be another round of where people are just like staring incredulously at this new product that's going up and up and up and up, and the greed's just off the charts. And it's going to be
only in the coins ETFs. That have
token ETFs are going to suck so much money out of people's pockets and into investing and allowing the big bankers to buy as much Bitcoin as they can. Right? They're going to suck up. Yeah. They just can't start until January.
You look at it. If you ask me, look at how marketing ill our industry is, how unhealthy it is. That the core of it, everybody knows. Bitcoin is you want to be in Bitcoin. It's like, okay, well, I want to be in Bitcoin. How much is Bitcoin? It's like, oh, it's priced in dollars. So it's the stupidest damn thing in the world, and they still do it. And they developed, again, it's obvious a lot of them are pretty corrupt. The U.S. dollar tokens. They print them. They're as bad as the Fed, but it's
really we needed more
because
like
pumping Bitcoin.
People should be using Reflexor right now. Reflexor Finance. You know what they do?
What's
a little thing called Rye. It is an unanchored stablecoin. It's meant to take volatility out, but it's anchored to its own price. So it doesn't flex as much. It goes up and down slowly, and its game theory design is around balancing it. So you can make a little bit more interest if you help stabilize it, because the incentives change depending on which side of the unstable line it's on. Really great project that could be like central to how we're doing things going forward.
Well, see, and it's one of those things like that.
So married to that S with a couple lines through it brand.
You need efficiency, which most of the blockchains that people are pointed to right now don't have. You need scalability, and you need how do I say this? I mean, the flexibility. You need the ability to actually build something real and not be constrained. So
it's there though, right? Like people could just start using the thing the way that they used to use it again. And there's really nothing that the core protocols could do to stop it. right? There could be tons more ideas like libraries. Someone could restart a company like that. Someone can innovate on something else that hasn't been innovated on yet. Right?
Totally.
Someone can
And they'll
start doing peer-to-peer payments for retails.
Mhm. They'll probably do it outside.
Like we
the
need
US,
to
right?
do that. Someone needs to build a little retail app for retailers, so that you can go to the grocery checkout and pay in Ether easily, right? Or pay in Bitcoin or pay in whatever.
But would you? That's what I'm saying. Bitcoin, and here's the reason.
I think that people would, given the way
that's what I'm saying. They would if it were doable, but it's not doable. Like Bitcoin can't handle.
No, they would if they had an alternative to the dollar and we made the right arguments. But first, we need the tools there.
Yeah, but then why would you just use? I mean, Bitcoin Cash has already taken the engineering.
Right. No, use Bitcoin Cash or whatever you want to use. Right.
I mean,
the market should be competing for that market right now, but it's not.
Right. Yeah, it's lame, right? And I guess same reason, like Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, and then if you're on the privacy side, you talk about Monero or Zcash or one of those, right?
With Litecoin too.
All right. So I mean, there's definitely good stuff going on, but I'm kind of flabbergasted at the lack of innovation. And I'll tell you the reason that I know why is because the venture capitalists have found it too easy to just pump our emotions and do stupid shit that gets everybody screwed and gives us a bad name and basically prolongs the adoption curve.
I don't think you're being fair to venture capitalists, Joe.
Yes, I am.
I think there are pressures being placed on them because some of them are rogues and some of them are risky, and they're being well managed in the same way that we are by a system designed to keep the existing system stable.
I mean, I agree. The venture capitalists definitely
capitalists have been squeezed by the military-industrial crowd just as we have.
Of course, but the point is, there are massive opportunities that require courage, imagination, and patience, and that's not the angle they've taken.
Also, a willingness to go rogue and do it off the grid, right? You have to commit to OPSEC if you want to do.
I don't know if any of them cared. I don't know if that's an issue. They freaking went in with FTX.
I guarantee you, they would jail anybody who did dockless scooters that you can't censor.
I'm not talking about that. They aren't doing that. They're not doing good stuff. They're doing FTX. It's like they
people are afraid to do stuff they know they can do. I think.
How much money went in to Luna? Where'd that money come from? It's like that wasn't just normal people around the world. That
guy was normal grift. They did not try to suppress because it helped their narrative. That's what I'm saying.
Totally, FTX too.
Right?
Oh, did you hear that?
FTX wasn't even crypto. That was just narrative plus normal financial.
They're a crypto world. They're crypto industries. Anybody looks at it, FTX is crypto. Sam, he's obviously a nerd. He
looks at it as crypto because they told the fucking press to make sure they said crypto every time they talked about it.
No shit. But that's the thing. They're going to do that every damn time. Do you think Solana is any better than FTX? How many times has Solana gone down? Now, it probably is. But
it is a strategy that has always been used since the days of cable news. This is the first time it's been used against an emerging industry in a military way. We had military weapons turned on us. I think there's actually some learning here to do.
Obama created that law.
Information weapons have been trained on our industry.
And it's not the first time, because there was Project Mockingbird back in the 60s. So that's been happening to Americans.
Right, that was more of a collaboration than a pressure campaign.
You read what's his name?
Surreptitiously and fuck up their industry, right?
They is plugged in.
They just
have unlimited money now. He's like, you think that they've literally permeated every aspect of society. They are not only are they listening over the wire because I'm going over whatever.
They just extended that fucking
my fucking monitor
FISA 702 authorization so they can
my webcam is listening to me. I guarantee that there's the laptop that's sitting across the room is listening to me. If I'm like the whole thing, if I mention dog toys, I get dog toy ads, and it's used in that way, which is a leak because it's used in other ways that they're storing everything and they're filtering it out. So I mean, they've been doing that forever. And now they just we can go
an organized military campaign style approach right now, I guess, and that's new.
Oh, it's a whole world because it's not even we only get so let's not break, but let's just convert to
roll into
current events. So let's get a list first. Let's
I
not
was
go
gonna
into any one
say,
of them because we missed stuff. What's
where
the
do we
list? What are the
start?
things?
Richard Hart got served in Finland
Oh,
by the
oh,
SEC.
oh,
The
such a
hex,
sad thing.
the hex guy.
Was he wearing his hat? And was he wearing his freaking what?
I'm sure he was all
the
Gucci there.
Story of a man
Yeah.
who believed his own bullshit so hard that he didn't.
I didn't realize he was a
scammer.
spam king. I saw that this week. I didn't realize he was a spam king before. He was an independent millionaire.
I don't think that's fair. I actually think Richard's heart was in the right place. He just didn't know the value of giving up, and giving up was time.
Like, I don't know. I
Ethereum was
think
not going
anybody
to allow
looking
them
at
to survive.
is like,
I think
whatever.
it was my understanding it was just a straight up Ponzi, just in crypto. Like,
I think Richard really believed what he was doing was something, though. I don't think he realized it was a scam.
Come on, wait just a minute here.
I swear to God,
he was a.
You might think was just a kind of like a
doesn't
dumb
really
sociopath.
pan out. If
he was a psychopath, he was a dumb sociopath. That's what I would say.
I'm not going to get into Freud, okay? But
he wasn't
one way or another.
Enough.
One way or
he
another.
wasn't dumb enough to fail as completely as he did, I guess.
I'm never going to get a word in. Maybe you care about Richard Hart that much. I don't. He was a freaking spam king, and if he would have been in Russia, he would have been shot. He would have already been dead. He wouldn't have been able to come out and have a scam anybody in crypto. But instead,
I've never met the guy, I guess.
Our freaking industry welcomes all of the scammers. Why? Because they're pushed into our industry because that's what the bankers want us to look like.
Right.
They don't want a bunch of engineers. How many? I'll tell you what. I've seen this on other subjects. Maybe we should put together something that would be enlightening on the sources of either the project leaders or CEOs, founders of all these projects. Which ones have engineers as founders, or at least someone who is technical versus someone literally out of Goldman Sachs? And I tell you,
media.
So fucking many of them came out of
the military industrial complex.
Pathetic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, so it's just this crazy thing where it's like, God damn, why? And if in certain cases, if your crypto token, whatever project, is related to that industry, okay, it makes sense. You're a travel agent, something, and so you have a project that would make sense, and it's like I would understand why that would be a founder. But if you come out of Goldman Sachs, as did Gary Gensler, as did all, I'm not going to say all the evil in the world came out of Goldman Sachs,
too.
But
that's the creepy part. Gensler tried to get like on a project sponsorship. He pretended to be all about what token was it? He tried to pretend he loved.
Oh, what was it? I don't remember.
And rejected him, and so now he seems like a jilted lover, even though he was never being genuine to begin with.
Oh, was it the one where they set it up for the it was Chinese backed and whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. No, he was into like
group.
God, what was it? Actually, I will pull it up. Gensler.
Also breaking.
Does anybody in the audience know? Can we get comments?
I just
what
saw
was Gensler's project that he tried to win that they rejected?
Putin claimed victory over Ukraine
with Miss Havish.
Yeah, we went straight into it. We want a list. Okay, Putin over Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, Congress denied. Is that true? They denied money to Ukraine. I think that's what his comment was about. We also have the ledger.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The ledger is important.
That one's important. Lightning Network news. Or lack of usability news, one way or another, or failing one way or another, from my understanding. There was somebody who's lost a bunch of money because, and it was freaking hilarious. I was like, they're maximalists. It's like centralization, always centralization. It doesn't work. It's like, oh, we have Lightning Network for you. It's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then the Civil War and the EMP or the
Binance. He tried to join Binance as an advisor.
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
He sucked up to Binance Smart Chain, man.
Yeah.
Which
I saw the tape
sense
of him when he was really young
for scams, and he can totally serve the regime from there.
He was also involved in some other issue where the party. I'd have to look up what company it was. They essentially were hit for fraud, had a multi-billion-dollar settlement or fee or something. Fine. fee. It probably was a fee. And as soon as that happened, he was like sent over somewhere else that he was no longer part. It's like, I think.
Yeah, you're talking about when he was the CFTC chair, right? Back in,
no, this was before
back
that.
in the
and they have
FM Global or MF Global thing.
On X, I think I commented.
He
on
let Senator Scalise off the hook because he was his mentor.
No, this was before that. This was when he was a young pup, and you could tell it's still him. Freaking ugly, freaking dude with glasses. Looks like a freaking some type of a rat named animal. Not a rat, but something like a rat, but water based rat type animal. Maybe marmot sounds cute. I don't know. Definitely not a cute animal.
Chinchilla. Chinchilla
sounds cute too. No, this is more like maybe.
What are those things that live in Louisiana in the swamp? There's
a lot of things in that swamp.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway,
the Seth Rich laptop's supposed to drop today.
I don't even remember going with that. So,
yep. And we definitely have to touch on the revelations about the military industrial complex being involved with this censorship regime.
So which one first? What do you want to hit first? We could do the movie stuff. We could do Ledger. We could do this military industrial complex. We could do the Lightning Network.
Ledger. I feel like we need to get one out there fast.
That one's important especially for this subject matter.
We probably should start the show with it.
Is it related to the phone home stuff that they all of them were doing, that they were collecting metrics on you, or is it?
Yeah, it hit their so name of the stack that it actually targeted. I found a really great X thread on this earlier that I've been trying to share with people because
what actually happened? So there was a hack on Ledger.
There was a subtle over time corruption of sort of ancillary seeming archive or ancillary seeming element of the stack. It was the Ledger library elements, or the Ledger library componentry was replaced with a draining capacity. So essentially, this is the piece that allows Connect Kit, Ledger Connect Kit, which is what you build into the, that you get that little pop up that says Connect My Wallet.
Mm-hmm.
Every single site that used Ledger's version of that had the exploit coded into it, or at least half the exploit coded into it.
Wow. Now, did it require some permission signing, or was it literally, hey, if I try to send something as simple as I'm going to send ETH from my wallet to your wallet, is it something that could compromise that in the middle, or was it?
So he says,
because I have some comments on some of those things that could have been.
So the Ledger always asks to use Connect Kit loader to load Connect Kit, but even if you follow the best practices and pin the version of the loader that you should be using, it'll fetch the latest version of Connect Kit, which can be spoofed, right? Like you can say this is the latest version of Connect Kit in an exploit by just ignoring the rules about what should be deemed the version you should return.
Well, and here's the thing, in my opinion, I mean, anything.
The wallet wasn't misbehaving; it was being exploited by a plugin that was hacked.
Okay, so let me say this: if you're using your browser to send crypto to do anything, be freaking careful. It's a browser.
You should air gap. You should download this update and air gap before you install it, honestly.
And here's the thing. Ledger,
you never know what's running in the background.
Ledger, even though it's a small display, it is a display, right? Ledger, and in most, like say in a send, it's there, right? It shows you the fee, it shows you the to address, it shows you, if it's what kind of token it is, that type of thing. They literally, like say blind signing stuff pisses me off. It's like, why are you even showing me a hash when I don't know what I'm signing on the Ledger? I can see it here, but what's here could be sent behind the scenes in an attack like this, where the Ledger is signing something, and all I know is there's a hash here that I can't make heads or tails of. It should literally give me, here's what you're signing. And it kind of sucks.
But you have to turn on blind signing in order to make it work with like half of the apps out there.
I know it. That's why it's like that is a lazy,
it's dangerous
hole. Right. It's something
and it's just turned into an annoyance where you have to go turn this security feature that should be being accommodated by the application builders off every time you get an update. It's just like this trivial step where people are like, I got to turn this annoyance feature off that never gets any benefit for me. Just this extra annoying step.
Does it have
to not thinking about it, even though you see it every time?
Does it have anything to do with when Ledger just recently, just a couple of months ago, it seems like Ledger had a thing where they were like saving people's password, or that was their upgrade or something?
Yeah, it was the.
It doesn't have anything to do with that element of it, but it probably has something to do with design ethos that prevails.
Exactly,
in a shop that builds
it's a philosophical or cultural issue that is the same deep problem that
if you're willing to build a Connect kit the way you did.
Well, they told us
you're probably also willing to back
years.
up somebody's private keys after you told them that you couldn't.
They told us for years that it was impossible because it was hardware, and then all of a sudden they added a feature. It's like, oh, we can back up your keys for you, and I'm like, wait a minute, you told me that was impossible, you know? And in fact, we have, I mean, for example, we had somebody back in the day, Dragon Chain. Back in the day in 2017, 2016 even, we had an address from which any announcement of any importance would be signed. And we did this because we were in Slack at the time, because we were still an open source project, and people would come into Slack and they would say, hey, and they'd have my avatar, and they say, hey, I'm Joe, and we're gonna buy some of these, whatever, right? They would try to sell stuff. Nobody ever lost money because everybody in our community knew that if I ever said something like that, it would be signed by that address and you could check it, right? Crypto is freaking disgusting that the crypto world doesn't do this as a standard, that there aren't like just tools out there that I'm going to sign using this address or this key, so that from now on, if there's an announcement, it's this.
We know,
and it could be authenticating everything
so
that we say.
So we did that, and we had somebody, I think in 2017, send 3/4 of a Bitcoin to that address, right? And it was a deep address, because I don't know if you guys know how hierarchical deterministic wallets work, but essentially, one key can generate an literally
somebody
infinite
has been
number
generating quite a few addresses off of the one that sent it to you ultimately.
Yeah. And so I could, and in the past, I will tell you a funny thing. Back then, the token sale, we had the way that it generated Bitcoin addresses. You could come in and pay in Bitcoin or Ethereum, and the Bitcoin addresses, because you didn't have an Ethereum address that we could assign, that we could say, okay, that's you, that's where your dragons will go. You had to enter an Ethereum address, and then you had to send Bitcoin, and essentially we would generate a new Bitcoin address. So there are several cases where these huge gaps that you might have 20 or 30 people come in, go to that page, and then not send it. They might, I'm gonna wait, or I'm gonna, and then come back later and send it. But there's a gap, and there's no Bitcoin in there. And all of the wallet software back then would check 10 or 20 addresses deep, and it's like, there's no more money here. They would give up. So it's like, so it freaked me out the first time we saw this, that it showed we had nothing in that wallet. It's like, whoa, what went wrong? It's like, well, it turns out there were tons of these gaps. So I had to go in and hack the freaking ledger code in order to make it crawl through the rest of the accounts. So you have crap like that going on. And anyway,
now to their credit, they did get a patch out quickly.
That's good.
It went, so you can go get 1.1.8, I think, of your
Ledger Live or
the Ledger software. It makes it so that the exploit won't work anymore. So it's not that people aren't going to probably have to go out and ultimately take care of the root cause with a real version of their Connect kit, but they've addressed the issue from a standpoint of you can go update your wallet and you're safe from the exploit. So
that's good.
So sorry, exploity guy, whoever you are.
I don't know. At some point,
you got to come up with a new project to propose to your boss at Langley.
Well, fool me once, shame on you, me, shame on me, whatever it is. Like at some point, You guys, they got to get this thing figured out.
Well, it's like when we first came out, we actually worked with a guy that was an engineer that did small device embedded system stuff, and we were going to build a wallet, hardware wallet that was actually more of a tool where it would be a signing instrument. So I could come in and I could sign a message, which is more important than, I'm going to hold, crypto on this.
It really needs like the Raspberry Pi of hardware wallets.
Right. Well, that's the thing.
Build themselves.
You could
cheaply.
build, because there are even issues. I don't know if you saw that, like with Ledger and with Trezor and with any of them that plug in via USB, that if you get somebody's wallet, that there are various ways to actually pull information that shouldn't be pullable, literally by the power drain, the power consumption of it, that they can read code from that. And so there are some holes, and
they can get interference on it. They can. It's
right.
I mean, they have to spend a lot. They have to really want in to do that.
So what I want literally is an air-gapped wallet, where it's maybe visual based, that there's essentially it either has inert power of batteries, or you can plug it in. But if you want to be super secure, you just put batteries in it, and it could display a QR code to communicate.
It needs to be only chargeable with wavelengths of a full moon.
There you go.
Yep, like solar, but tuned to a certain light only.
Yes.
You have to be in the special light bulb room and have the special light bulb that activates only to your DNA.
CVS, Kroger, and Rite Aid turned over all of your prescriptions to the government without a warrant.
They already had mine.
So that was done recently.
Without a warrant.
Without a warrant. Yeah.
Also, they've been doing it without warrant for a while.
Etsy fired over a fourth of their staff after complaints of selling slices of pizza for thousands of dollars.
What was that about?
That was creepy.
It had something to do with children.
It was like the Wayfair $4,000 armoire thing.
It sounds
after missing children.
It sounds ludicrous when a normal person hears that, but when you look into it, you're like, this is not just something screwy. I'll tell you, a family friend. I won't tell you who had a family friend who was, doing some service that they went. I can't remember what the point that they were on the site, but there's a site where you can go and act as a tutor or various you even babysitting, stuff like this, right? And she brought this to us, and we looked at it, and it was this description of someone describing their kid in a way that you would not describe your own kid. It was obvious that they were selling this kid, and it was on this site. And so we said, okay, well, I helped them, and we went and we essentially emailed the site to say, hey, there's something wrong here. And this user got banned. They didn't ban that person who was doing the thing.
Oh my God. They banned the person reporting?
Yes. And then we sent it into I think FBI, whatever. And I can't remember if we called because it was not a local thing, right? No idea what happened with it. I guarantee nothing happened with it. There's tons of crazy stuff like that going on out there.
Yep. I mean, and now maybe we should go to the military industrial complex thing, because now we have to be really thinking in terms of people expecting us to make assumptions about threats that are not connected, when in reality they're coordinating something.
It's all connected.
Yeah, Whitney Webb just had
not
a great
coordinating
interview.
something in a way that is haphazardly coordinated to look like it's not coordinated, right? Literally military style coordination in a framework that they use for special forces, integrated finance and misinformation operations in foreign countries. This is what they used to subjugate the Arab Spring. And
Wikipedia,
what they were find in Afghanistan for 10 years.
Every social network
they brought home
Wikipedia,
to turn on us.
And I tell you again, the key, and this is why it is a blockchain thing. It's why it is important that this is why Bitcoin, in my opinion, was compromised by those very groups because of the threat. And what is the threat? It's the threat to their unlimited spring of value, of money creation, that the only reason they can afford to pay the thousands of people to control what is on Wikipedia, and why you can't have Dragon Chain and why you can't have these other cryptos on there is because they have unlimited funds. The only reason that Facebook, it has tons, millions of shills on it. The reason, if you watch 4chan, it's a very interesting thing that you will notice patterns. You will notice that certain groups come in and they post stuff that is poison pill stuff, so that the conspiracies look crazier. That's why flat Earth exists. That's why there are various others, right? And it's interesting, right? And it's that, and it's only there because there's unlimited money. The same thing as how many millions of people have been killed in the past 50 years because they have unlimited money.
Just unlimited money. It's unlimited resources, and they're putting like their brightest, cleverest people on this. Like this
that requires unlimited money
to fuck with our heads.
Yeah.
And these are the ones who graduated top in their class and then went on to do excellent things.
And or are compromised.
Ask yourself that. If you controlled the Fed, if you controlled the unlimited money, what would you do? Right? And then ask yourself, what would that banker do? Right? Because that banker is the one who actually has control of it. And I think I say it's no different than if whether you believe in spiritual realm or not, it'd be the same as if you had freaking demons inhabiting the earth and they're the ones that control shit. That's the way it is. Anyway.
So IAM's asking me to mention Stephen I can never say his name.
Nayaroff, I think.
Nayaroff, yes.
Probably mispronounced. Apologies.
And he's supposed to come on the interview with Very Dow tomorrow. We're going to be recording, and hopefully you're joining us too, Joe.
What time?
10.
I have a birthday party.
10 my time, 10 a.m. my time.
I might be able to do that.
Hopefully you can join us.
Central, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I might be able to do that.
I sent you a Google invite, so hopefully you can.
I've been DMing with him, so trying to understand, what he can tell me about what he knows, because I think he knows stuff that
he knows
affects our case.
And he has recordings of conversations that he had directly with Vitalik, talking about stuff that he can talk about. But then last night I ran across this whole chart thing and more information connecting the CCP with all of this and like literally globalist elite crap. And I sent it to him and he retweeted that out. And so I don't know. I mean, but in that Whitney Webb interview, she said what Greg was talking about, like, and what you were talking about, the whole military industrial complex thing and how they have this all scripted or whatever, orchestrated in a way that they can make whatever happen, whatever crisis they want to roll out, but they can point it and blame any nation. They can blame North Korea. They can blame Iran, whoever they need to point the blame at.
Because there are characteristic pieces of their malware floating around that have fingerprinting that's been done and attribution that's been done by other agencies before. Like if you see fragments of poorly spelled Russian, this was a Ukrainian attempt to frame Russia for something, so we know that it's the Ukraine, but there's an error in it, so we know it's Russia trying to make us think that it's the Ukraine. In reality, this was the CIA.
Yeah,
because
the only way you can believe them is if
they could have that analysis,
that stuff on chain first. But that's the point. People are too lazy to think about that, so they all just believe it because the ABC News said this.
Right.
And then there's the fact that it's all obfuscated, right? Nobody really knew for sure until relatively recently that this was going on. So you couldn't really be certain whose motives you need to take into account.
It is resources, it is money, and like say 2 points that the Fed and that gang, whoever the hell that cartel, let's just say, the banking cartel, that they print the money. What do they do with the money? They buy they admit that they buy capital. They own half the stock market. They own half the residential housing in the U.S. Blah blah blah. They also buy gold. You guarantee they know it's collapsing. They've been buying gold. Okay, so
Well, I mean, how else are they going to dump it all at once when they need to make the price go down?
Conceptually, do you guys remember Dune? And I'm talking the books. It didn't really go into it in the movie much, but I was always interested in the concept of the Bene Gesserits. That is the witches that
manipulated the culture
they manipulated the culture.
Ever.
They literally, a point in the book is that their resources were used over many, many hundreds or thousands of years to place, information in places which might or might not be used in the future. And one of them was this Messiah figure, which they used when that collapse happened. I can't remember what planet.
They had a priest identity for Paul to be the
book is this
Messiah. It was seeded over thousands of years, so that there was no way that anyone would believe.
It's a brilliant concept. It's a brilliant concept, and I say it does not differ much from what we actually have. Where
if we think
media
for a second, the real power
sets up.
Is dumb,
look,
we're fucking ourselves.
Yeah. By the way, this is a great transition. This is a great segue into the movies that there's a movie that I don't know if it includes an EMP or not, but it's about all of the power grid collapsing. Is it Netflix? I don't know what
I just watched it.
Platform it's on.
Leave the World Behind or whatever.
Yes, and then there's another one that's coming out that's a Civil War, where somehow Texas and California get together to fight the. It's like, okay, this is some type of stupid Hollywood concept, I guess, but anyway, they're trying to push that stuff, and it's much the same. Some people say it's a karmic thing. They have to tell us what they're doing before they do it. Or is it more of a Bene Gesserit thing where they're trying to influence, they're trying to separate, they're trying to manipulate patterns. So
the problem is actually pretty simple to characterize. If you guys want to know what they're trying to solve, what they see, and this is expressed in an article I can share. Problem is that they can't really tell the difference on the internet between genuine Russian operatives who want to, get a certain president elected, and people in the United States who are cypherpunks who want to take down the banking system, so it's convenient for them to pick anti-regulator people.
Well,
right,
and it's become
they look like the same set of threat actors in a group of people who have a paradigm that's focused on nation states. Right, international law is meant to think about orgs, not people with weirdly aligned interests all of a sudden. So they can point cyber weapons at the people doing a certain thing. But they can't point cyber weapons at people who are doing a certain thing for a specific reason. And so they have to either hit us all, or they have to come up with a way to brainwash us so they can tell the difference between us and genuine military threats. And the way they came up with an approach to it is like, it's breathtaking. It's clever. It's working right now. And it only has a few holes in it that started to get out of control for them.
I don't know. I think they're being a little sloppy, though. I mean, like the fact that we know that they're changing dictionary entries now.
If you abstract it up another layer,
that's an Orwellian thing.
Why would you? Why would you be doing that?
And beyond that, it's this whatever category of three-letter agencies you include in this, which are from multiple countries, right? It's not just a single nation state doing this stuff. It's almost like they themselves are operating as their own nation state, or that the U.S. is, and I'm not going to say who or what, because I don't even know who our government is enslaved to, but it's almost obvious that we're a vassal state. The U.S. is not, the Congress does not control the country, and it's not even in a good way. It's that, in the very worst way possible, our funds are stolen from above and below, and from inflation and from taxes, and from waste, and then they're also printing a tremendous amount that is wasted everywhere that they want to, or probably mostly where they have the best kickback margin. So Ukraine was a great laundromat for them. I don't know what else is, right? So
last night I was watching the Congress, and Roy Chip was speaking and another guy was speaking, and there's some little girl sitting up in the speaker's chair directing the whole thing, and then some other like teenager walks in the door. No one else is in the building or the room. Like, I'm like, what is going on here? There are clearly our representatives aren't really even making decisions or up there. It's just all puppetry. Like, I don't know who that little girl was sitting in the chair, but I'm like, it's a joke. I mean, they are just rubbing it in our face at this point. Like, and no one's paying attention. No one's screaming that the house.
And it's even
is on
worse
fire.
than that. It's actually, it's even worse than that. The team rubbing it in their faces and nobody paying attention is one component of a larger project to keep us mind fucked into compliance. Like, it's just one element of a machine that connects all of the parts of everything, the whole of society approach.
Well, dragging out, Weekend at Bernie's supposedly running our country, and we're all just like, well, I guess we'll allow it. I guess we allow a Alzheimer patient
a lot of it
to
is
run the country.
Demoralization, and these are the experts. You look at MK Ultra. If you look at what MK Ultra was,
right?
What we know about it was what it is. It's really not good. It's really evil. I mean, almost unimaginably evil stuff. And they're experts at that type of stuff. And if you go on Twitter, you go on 4chan, you go on most places, there is a tremendous amount of demoralization propaganda where they want you to think, oh yeah, you've already lost. There's no hope. Forget about it. Just watch your football, play your video games, watch your Netflix, and make sure your belly's full of Big Macs, and that's it. That's life.
Bread and circus.
Bread and circus in modern America. That's what it is. And so, cutting through that is going to require hungry bellies, which looks like it's coming. I don't understand the game behind it, but I
don't either.
It's coming, so it's crazy.
You guys need to read about something called hybrid COE. Just Google hybrid COE, because that is the internationalization of this project. The idea is sort of like NATO has this paradigm to, rather than engage in trying to separate the internet into states versus states, they sort of halfway knowingly conscript people into the service of the intelligence services.
Yeah, I don't believe any of that stuff anymore.
It's
so funny because the more you understand about how all of it works. I mean, there are good people in the military, of course, and there are good people in the government somewhere, of course, but they don't have the courage necessary.
They actually all
to do what's needed.
What they think is good in their hearts.
What was last night? I was on a Twitter Spaces, and they said that somebody said that some whistleblower like sent my Senator Langford a voicemail, or Senator Langford sent a voicemail or something. Where was that? Oh my gosh, where was it? Oh man, I'm gonna have to find it now.
Who's Alec? So APAC and Alec
right here.
I don't know who Alec is. I want to know.
It may be.
This is cited,
I've shared it to my channel as well, and maybe somebody from my.
This paper called Whole of Society Intelligence Approach, Critical Reassessment of the Tools and Means Used to Counter Information Warfare in the Digital Age, is cited on the COE site, which is cited on the CISA site, and the site of that organization linked in the latest ID leak. And you can draw a direct line from that to an article that talks about how financial crime is all about stopping crypto.
They've opened a investigation into Ericsson and telecommunications. The Senate.
Election fraud or something else?
I think it's something else.
Well, it's one facet of you're sort of right. It is the election fraud. People were part of this too.
Yeah, there's too much going on. It's like people, and that's the other thing too. It's drowning out. It's so hard to know what to watch now. Not like watch for entertainment. Like, what subject should I be researching right now? It's very hard to know if you're trying to, So, maybe it's good. How soon the collapse?
integrated planning system commander's manual for people planning these kinds of operations, which is open source and online. So you will now at least have what their commanders use to plan these things.
That's good.
It's about the whole AT&T, Western Union, Google, the real crown virus, corporations doing the bidding, and all that big connection. So anyway, something about Huobi platform or something, and all of that being connected.
Coke. The Koch brothers. By the way, the Koch brothers from Wichita.
They're actually some of the good guys, in my estimation.
Really? I don't think they are. I think they're bad.
They actually, they would. Really if you'd ever met them, they'd surprise you.
I
thought they were bad guys too until they because they're from Wichita. So
yeah, I don't know. I think they're bad. I've never met them. Never met them. Right?
Yeah. Dude came to my sister's wedding because he's friends with my sister's husband.
Oh, really? Well, maybe you should get a loan from him or something, man. Get some investment.
I'm not taking money from that guy.
I would say my ex's aunt is married to one of them.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, I don't know. I mean, whatever. I don't know. Control's weird, and that whole group is strange, and you get all the human trafficking stuff that goes along with all those things are all
crazy.
Anyway, so we just talk about Lightning Network.
Right.
Lightning Network. Do you want to talk about that, or is that too boring? I hear all these people. They're Bitcoin people are now saying,
actually not up to speed on Lightning Network. What's going on with it?
I'm not an expert, obviously, because I don't pay attention to it too much unless something pops. But one of the stories was someone lost a good many Bitcoin. It was his whole life savings because he was using Lightning Network to set up stuff in El Salvador to facilitate Bitcoin payment stuff. And it's so hilarious because it's Bitcoin, it's decentralized, but we're going to use this because it won't work otherwise. And it's obvious to any engineer looking at it. I say this, it's my opinion, that it was intentional because Bitcoin Cash is not having this problem. Litecoin's not having this problem because they took the engineering route. They looked at the data.
Well, if Satoshi didn't want anybody to iterate on it, he wouldn't have made it open source. I'm sorry. He built the proof of concept.
Yeah, but that was the point. They where it's convenient, they'll say, "Oh no, he put in a limit on the big blocks, but it was supposed to be a temporary limit, so they didn't have to worry about certain things." But then they say that's forever there. At the rest of the stuff, it's like he said it was cash, and they're like, "It's not cash. It's not cash."
This is the thing that's crazy is people misunderstand Satoshi somehow. You know how many rapid iterations there were as he built it that all of a sudden ceased?
Yeah.
And
he also was not a maximalist. He also
and people interpret him leaving it open source as a framework for people to build more stuff off of as
Namecoin.
Just the right I used thing to have to do as opposed to like an intentional seeding of a technological working model.
Namecoin was a brilliant system that had a bad model. It had a couple of things that I think were badly designed, but Satoshi was not a maximalist. He saw that you could also use this technology for
he never thought it was going to take on probably.
It's just like, oh man, I mean, you imagine if and they definitely don't want what Namecoin should have been, which was the ability to register what would be a domain name and simultaneously generate an SSL cert that is based upon asymmetric keys that I can control and own my own domain name, and it's on chain. They don't want that. They want the SSLs to be centralized. They want the browsers to have to list the authorities.
Well, they know exactly what they're trying to stop.
Because they have a back door into that whole system, right? So
if you were thinking about the world in terms of how do we get the web under control, because they felt like that since SOPA and NIPA, right? They really felt they needed to get the web under control because these internet people were mocking the shit out of them, right? So they did whatever they did to get Aaron Schwartz to kill himself, and then they moved on and learned from it. You know, they learned what they could from the Arab Spring, and they moved on and learned from it. But the plan was always to stop us from doing stuff like that ever again. We weren't supposed to use the internet to stop legislation. We weren't supposed to use the internet to overturn governments. We were supposed to use the internet to look at cat pics and say how much we liked our politicians, right?
Can I tell you something that I've noticed that might be useful to people too in evaluating things that don't otherwise make sense? It's like, why is it that the Republicans and the Democrats are doing it? It's like it doesn't, and it's they're all on the same team. But here's the thing to look at. If you go back to ancient times, and I'll specifically call out Greek and Roman because I love ancient Western history. It's very interesting, very useful. Yeah, very useful to know about. It's the oddest thing when you go into that and you see especially during the Empire, when you got some of the bad emperors in, that the pattern was basically one of these guys would have an enemy. What they and the rash part that what they might tell you in the 80s anyway in high school social studies would be, well, he had him killed, right? And it's like, it's immoral, it's horrible, this is a bad emperor. The part that they don't really go into that is very interesting to me is that by killing them, it was almost like a one of the .io games where they literally would absorb all of their wealth. They would basically kill this powerful person, take all their estates, take all their money, all their gold, and own everything they owned. And it's a crazy thing. And I guarantee to you, especially if you look at what happened in Libya with Gaddafi and with the Clintons, that still exists. That pattern is still there. It's just kind of behind the scenes hidden. They literally will kill some foreign power in order to absorb that wealth. And, you could say, war for oil stuff. But we tend to never do that. It's because it's the family.
War for message, man. It's war for message.
It's a crazy thing, but that goes on. It's really neat. Really, right. It's neat to know. It's crazy. I understand.
Speaking of which, one of the Saudi princes just died last night.
Odd.
That whole Vegas thing, I think, is going to come up this Christmas.
Really? Why this Christmas?
Well, you'll think I'm crazy if I tell you why, but
I'm willing to.
I want to know now.
Lend a little of credulity to ideas that seem at first outlandish right now.
Yeah. It's like nothing is crazy in clown world.
Well,
it's like it might be.
If crazy means thinking that there are people who are organizing at a very high level with a very extreme level of detail and secrecy against us all, then crazy is probably warranted at this point because we've got a lot of evidence of that now.
Yeah. Okay. So what is it? Why? Because that subject.
There's these promoted tweets that I see sometimes, and sometimes I see messages in them, and there's the whole chain or story that I read and put together.
So like dead dropped in the advertising,
and it showed me like that. It was a Christmas countdown, and it was a black building with. Remember that movie where the guy jumps from the building or whatever?
Was it Vanilla Sky?
No, the one with Bruce Willis. And
Man on the Ledge.
And no, Die Hard.
The Christmas movie.
Yeah,
and
it had to do, and it was a Christmas countdown thing, and then it had to do with. Then there was another part of it. I can't remember all of it. I have to go back and find where I sent it to somebody that I was discussing it with, and anyway, there were a couple other pieces to it, but there was a Vegas thing and a bowling alley. Anyway, it's just a whole thing, but I think that's going to be.
It is easy to get threat awareness that hypes you up to see more more patterns than are there. But the fact that you're worried that you might be seeing patterns that are there or aren't there, but you're seeing patterns that are pointing to things that look suspicious, there's investigation. Right? Like you have to look at it and take it with a grain of salt at the same time as you look at it as if a grain of salt might be the right one.
Yeah, that's right. You definitely have to keep an
Open mind is key.
Yeah,
right now.
I hold things loosely, but
yeah, you're right. That sounds
when things
off
start
the
lining
wall.
up,
I'm
when it
willing
starts
to consider it until
rhyming too
I
much,
find
like,
something.
well, and then, you know, I
wrong
watched
with
a
it.
documentary about the 2008 thing, and they were
Oh, man.
talking about the collapse and all this, and there was a letter from, was it Rumsfeld or was it, crap, I can't remember. Some letter showed up that about asking Kennedy to not push them to register the community as a Zionist something.
Huh.
And
Weird.
then he gets killed. Then
Hmm.
so they were talking about that. Then they lead up to the 2008 crash where they mention Epstein. And so all of that was about to come out in 2008. All that human trafficking, all that kind of stuff. And instead, we have the crash and the people pay the price. You know, the bankers get bailed out, all of it gets covered up, all the dirty money, all that, and it gets its little pretty reset cover up, and people lose their homes and pay the price, and the can gets kicked down the road, and now here we are again, and now all those things are happening again. Warren Buffett just sold how many $1 million worth of stocks?
The banks are selling a bunch of stuff too, like
Oh,
all of the
there's definitely
all
like
the things are
guys,
happening
banks.
again right now, like that's
So,
the crash in
you guys know
2000.
that the sun wobbles a little bit around its axis, and
Yes.
the Earth doesn't
12,000 years,
actually
I think.
orbit the sun. The Earth orbits something called the Jupiter Earth or the Jupiter Sun Berry Center, because that's
Jupiter's a
actually
huge
the system.
gravity. Yeah.
Right. The sun sort of wobbles along a little path around itself, and sometimes the center is in the dead center of the sun, and sometimes it's a little bit outside it. It's
Yep.
never the same place.
Yeah.
You don't know that until you watch very closely and do some extra maths and find out that's what the sun's actually fucking doing. Right? It seems like we're going around the sun, and even that like took a long time to get people to say we weren't having the sun go around us.
Right.
But what we know tomorrow will make us look stupidly naive about something that seemed obvious today. And we have to keep that in mind. And we also have to keep in mind that people are trying to trick us. And so they will exploit a completely open version of that mindset to trick us into things they expect us to buy. So we have to also question when we feel an idea is like, it's resonating with us too well. It has to feel suspicious now. So we have to question our own intuitions because they're expecting us to make them off the breadcrumbs they're leaving us. And if you feel that is making you paranoid because people tell you that there's no way anyone's organizing that, you can feel calm again because it's pretty clear from public record that that's exactly what they're doing. So you go ahead and be paranoid about it, but go ahead and investigate it and see what you find.
Yeah.
That's
hold it
sort of
all
what I've been
lightly.
thinking about for the last 24 hours.
Well, there's some really crazy ones. There's one that's a 4chan one. If you want to look it up, that calls out these some stuff from end times, but it's pointing to a place in the sky that some event happened. I can't remember. Is Virgo, I think, and it's crazy because apparently Google space, whatever they blocked it out. They blocked this one section of the sky out, and they're like, why is that blocked out? Anyway, it's crazy. There's
a
all types
place
of,
in
like,
when you're driving on I-40 to California. There's a place in Yuma. There's a place in Arizona, like you're just driving and all of a sudden on the map there's a big circle and it does not exist on the map to the south of I-40, and I'm like, I can see that right there, and it's super weird. Like,
maps are a
I don't know,
strange thing.
Crazy stuff. Okay.
A random fun aside, have you guys ever heard of the paper town concept?
Paper town, no. Oh yes, yeah. Where they
like map makers would put fake towns on the map to catch
so they could check copyright.
And what happened was somebody built a town where this map said this town was, because they got there and there was no town. So they're like, well, shit.
Yeah.
Better have a town. So they caught somebody making a map that didn't attribute it to them later. They're like, ha, you fakers. This isn't a real town. They're like, no, it is. You need to go there.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That's funny. That's awesome.
So,
All right.
so we can map and
Anything else?
territory ourselves into a hell of a corner if we're not careful
goodness.
right now.
There's just
Anything else? There's a massive, there's a current supposed cyber attack on U.S. banking infrastructure, the largest ever. Like, what's that about? I don't know what that's about.
that's
You
the way
know-
to push you into the CBDC.
It's a fucking false flag, is what it is. Let's just be frank.
Yeah.
Don't worry, the government's here to help. You just download this
They
app.
really need some fuel
Let
for
it keep
Warren's
you whole.
bill
It's okay.
All your money will be there.
against
You can still eat
cybercrime.
your
It's okay.
By the
McDonald's.
way, fun poll here, guys. Quick straw poll. How much of illicit fund flows do you think are stopped by the 274 billion we spent last year fighting illicit finance, anti-money laundering, anti-terrorist funding? Like, what percentage do you think of illicit flows we interdicted on a daily basis?
Near to zero.
Yeah, 0.01% or less.
Mhm.
They don't keep good statistics on it on purpose because it's so embarrassing.
Well, and it's not there.
This is what
same
this
as
bill is designed to
regulatory
do.
Same as other regs. They're not
It's
there
gonna-
to do their stated thing. They're there to control your ability to innovate in an area where typically the bank.
They
is
want to plug
sometimes
in their
big
expensive
media or
mass surveillance apparatus to the crypto industry, so they have a cost to throw it at players they'd like to remove from the marketplace.
That Elizabeth Warren thing. Now, tell me this is not true. I read that. I bookmarked it. I liked it. That she put out something where she wanted to get KYC for people buying sandwiches because some of that
That
money
was
would go to
that was
terrorists.
actually that was a fuck around. She was
Okay.
actually making a comment about how people who were in crypto were being hyperbolic about the nature of her bill.
Okay.
And so she did say it. It wasn't serious. It was meant to mock
Okay. I
us,
just like
though.
it just sounds so crazy. Anyway, yeah, she's
That's the other thing is she's being a dick about it. Like, this is a person
But
who
she's
made
not a
her
good person.
fucking. Like, I spent like 2 or 3 hours researching to try to find like an old instance of her engaging in like megalomaniac, control the internet like behavior in the early 2010s, right? Because I wanted to find something to make her look like a hypocrite in a post I was writing. Because she is one, and I just thought that I'd find an old poignant example to cut through people's like, I'm used to seeing this, so I needed a new fact, right? I didn't find anything because she used to support shit like this. Like she was on the side of Aaron Schwartz. She was actually friends with the guy. Like, what the fuck? How did she fall so far from the tree? Did somebody replace her brain with like a slug or something? Because you'd think she'd realize that her friend Aaron be rolling over in his grave about what she's doing right now.
I'm sure she's corrupted.
I'm sure she's been compensated for this change too.
It's just, I mean, it's mind-boggling to me.
I don't know. I don't know the difference between the compensation, by the way. So, I have to put this out there. I'm not going to accuse anyone of taking a bribe. They very well might just.
Well, except for all of Congress fucking takes bribes, so it's
I don't know.
Totally fair.
Right. They have something on them, whether they have, it's like they bribe them or whether they get pictures of them doing things.
Well, and power makes people want more power too. So it's possible she just wants it.
Our government,
you know?
Yeah, I don't know. People, I don't know. Some of that stuff is so.
If you're like starving for power and you're sitting there staring at this chocolatey power cake across the way that all your corrupt friends are eating into, and they seem nice enough, even though they gave up on their ideals. Like, and you do that for like 3 or 4 years, eventually you're just gonna be like, I'm just gonna have a little bite of cake, you know, and then you're rolling around in it with them in a furry costume before you know it.
Yeah, you probably should use.
That's how politicians get corrupt.
But slice of something circular. Let's see here. What else?
Coinbase is expanding.
Oh, Coinbase. Okay. Yeah, I've not watched much about anything they've been doing.
What are they expanding into?
They're opening a. They're.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Boy. Am I cutting out?
Yeah,
I'm frozen, guys. I'm gonna dump out and come back on. Hang on.
Okay. We only have a few anyway, so we'll probably cut out pretty soon here, unless there's anything else big, right?
I have one more thing before we call it.
Yes.
And it's a
Yeah,
good
you
one.
come
It's
back.
like a
That'd be
positive
good. We'll
news
wait.
thing.
We'll wait for you. I'll play some here. I'll present some memes in the meantime, in case it takes me a while.
Okay. Hunter's supposed to be speaking to Congress. I heard he got lost yesterday. Went to the wrong place.
Really?
Yeah. And they were saying, "Where's Hunter?" Trump wore a black suit last night, which he never wears black. But
That's interesting.
blackout. The Ezra Pope. The Pope wants to simplify outside of the church.
Okay. Greg is back. Here we go.
Okay. So something
Unfrozen.
positive. Dude, now is the time to accumulate some fucking Bitcoin.
Oh, really? Why is that?
Think about this. Starting in early January sometime, they're going to say, okay, fine, over at SEC. And all of a sudden, Vanguard, BlackRock, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Royce Pearson, anybody who has a stodgy sounding name and a picture of a rock on their logo is going to start selling to retirement account professionals, individual investors, anybody they can bend their ear on to buy paper Bitcoin in their ETF. And the way that these ETFs typically work is the company that gets the most market share wins the thing forever because they're sticky. People just hold on to their fucking exchange traded funds because it's hard to make a change, right? When you're a fund manager, getting a new portfolio with a new financial provider is way harder than rebalancing a portfolio.
The majority
right? So they don't really sell those shares
as their
so how much these guys tend to make a yearly in revenue for the foreseeable future off these ETFs.
Well,
about $1 billion a year roughly is the estimate.
How much
would you spend on marketing for $1 billion a year revenue potential for the market leader?
You say that, but how destroyed will Bitcoin be? Not because they're trading, because
Bitcoin won't be destroyed. They're going to have to buy Bitcoin to cover the liquidity at a certain ratio.
Are they? Are they? Do they have to buy gold right now to cover that similar?
Well,
it's no, they don't actually. They just
in the initial run-in, they are going to have to.
You think that they're not going to freaking find a way very quickly? They have a year. That shit doesn't start until January of 25. I think.
You don't think they're going to take the cash that people buy these ETFs with and actually buy Bitcoin for themselves?
Wait, do you know what we're talking about? Do you not think that they're going to take 90% of that cash and use 10% of it to buy real Bitcoin and make the rest of it paper? Because I do.
Right. That's exactly right. That 10% is going to be still larger than any influx that's ever gone into crypto by order of magnitude. Times 10.
Maybe.
But it's going to be nuts, the amount of cash flowing into it all of a sudden.
They're going to claim, well, Bitcoin's not efficient enough. We can't actually transact in the way we need because it can only has 70. But how many transactions can Bitcoin do in a day? It's double digit, maybe. It's made it all the way. Maybe it's double digit. I can't remember. It's not very many.
I was saying now might be a useful time to accumulate if you have dry powder. Because there's a pretty good odds that all of a sudden the most powerful marketing machines on earth are going to start hyping it in January once they're allowed to finally.
Is that why Diamond was dissing it while they're setting stuff up? I mean, that's my assumption, right? That's
they're not allowed to start selling the ETFs until January, so they're probably not going to engage in positive marketing about Bitcoin until they have something to sell.
That's a year. It's not January next year. It's January.
No, it's January in next month.
Are you sure? I saw 25.
I saw 24.
The banks can put it on their balance sheet. Isn't it right?
So
that's what it is. Banks on the balance
sheet. So right now they're trying to keep the price depressed. They really are. But they're going to not give a shit about the price of Bitcoin, and they're going to pour all the money they can into selling ETFs.
Even when they're doing that, they're going to be putting paper in to keep it suppressed, just as they are right now with gold and silver. So,
but like the last, that Piddly ETF that they did in futures over at Grayscale, wasn't it? Still netted them like an ass load of money, and even though that place was poorly secured and poorly structured,
how can
they made an ass
what did it do for the Bitcoin price?
I have a question for you guys.
Bitcoin price?
When the money went in, it caused the start of the bull market by creating a huge Bitcoin price.
How can the SEC approve an ETF
It was a 2021 bull
if
market.
they know
Instigate.
how it works and they know about, they know
surprised you guys
Reggie's
didn't-
patents exist
didn't get
because they
excited
went
with it.
after him. So they can't say they don't know about Reggie's patents. So they would know that they're infringing on Reggie's patents. How could they approve an ETF?
I don't think they are. I don't think they. I don't know
You
this.
can't know that actually.
I'm not an expert at his with his patents for sure. But
it has to be
I
litigated.
guarantee that when they are doing this, it is not going to be in a DeFi way. It is not going to be on chain. It's literally going to be off chain bullshit paper, and they're going to fake a lot. They don't want it to be on chain because it's going to be, there's going to be a lot of fake Bitcoin.
Patent isn't a mass tort. Patent or a mass enforcement right. Patent is an individual enforcement right. He's gonna have to sue everybody he wants to stop from using it the way he wants it and win. And they're going to hire their best lawyers, right? Like, it's going to be a shit fight for every dime.
The Prevail Act, if the Prevail Act goes through, that's going to change a lot of things as well.
What's that?
So the Prevail Act is that it's to help inventors and with their patents, that they have to, if a big corporation or whatever goes to try to be a patent troll and steal somebody's ideas or try to break their patent, they have to choose which court. They can't do multiple courts. They can't do like civil court and the patent courts or whatever. And they can only hit them one time. They can't continue to go back at them multiple times.
So it limits the power of patent litigation to drain
like
resources
Coinbase
out of somebody
just
under
had
resourced.
their IPR denied for trying to break Reggie's patent, and the courts like lit them up. I mean, not only did the court
which court was this?
The patent trial, patent courts. It's like a tribunal of judges in the patent courts.
Was it the U.S. Patent Trademark Adjudicators?
Yeah, PTAB or something like that.
Oh, so it wasn't the International Trade Courts.
I don't know. I'd have to look it up. We just did a whole interview about it a couple weeks ago on the Very Dow channel.
Did they create binding precedent on U.S. courts?
What's that?
Like, did they create, like, is there law made? Like, will somebody have to follow that decision if he goes to, like, the 10th Circuit District Court and tries to enforce it?
I don't know. I just know they weren't, they were denied on all of their efforts or whatever.
Yeah. I love Reggie to death, but I fear he has a lot further to fight.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to call it right here. So we're going to break out. Let's see here. I'm going to pull up the peppers. Let's see. All right. So thanks for showing up. Again, good show, I think.
Oh shit.
Any updates? We have like 10 minutes. We have to cut out. So
little thing. I got
what's going on
that I just wanted to share.
Okay, it could be your thing. So
you guys go.
What do you want to talk about on the way out, Greg? It's you. You get to.
First off, thanks for putting up with my caffeinated self. I had a long night with some very, very poopy-butted Pomeranians that kept me awake, so I'm very caffeinated.
Nope, no worries.
So I might be a little bit hyper today. Thank you for entertaining my more rapid-fire, less controlled style today.
It is all right. Next time we'll get you some type of I don't know, maybe have you.
They keep eating leaves outside. It's crazy.
I don't know.
It's like they don't know what's hurting them.
That's awesome.
Anyway,
so what's
setting my dog's dietary habits aside, you go to mirror.xyz megatexas.eth. mirror.xyz/megatexas.eth, actually.
Okay.
You will get to my Mirror XYZ page, and I have a new article out called Damla Sopa Pippa Reborn, where I basically look at Elizabeth Warren's legislation, and I point out its a spiritual and realistically freedom destructive connections to the Sopa Pippa bill that her friend Aaron Schwartz tried to fight and probably provoked enough enemies to get himself suicided once upon a time. This is the same fight renewed for the Web3 age, and the legislation she's hawking right now, he prophesized, right? end of the speech that he gave about their win was like, they're going to come back through a different channel under a different name. This is it. So check it out. It's a pretty good piece.
Good. I don't trust MIT anymore, by the way, for all that crap that happened. So, hey, Lisa, what's going on?
Well, check out my channel on YouTube, and also go join the Mighty Lair and make a comment and participate there so I can send you some lot. And then Sean and I are on Tuesdays, half on my channel, half on his channel. And I'm going to be doing an interview for the Very Dow channel with Steve Narayoff and this guy over here, Joe Dragon, hopefully. And tomorrow, so we'll record it tomorrow. I'm not sure when we'll edit it and whatever, and get everybody's approval and then get it sent out. So that's what's going on with me.
Very good. Tape delay, long tape delay. All right. And for me, go check out 10.social. There's there's always something going on there, and we're trying. Oh, and I don't know yet. I believe next week. So I will, I'll broadcast it when we know. We're going to join a Spaces on X with one of the guys that's been analyzing the Twitter community notes issues that apparently they have evidence that they are compromised already, that someone has put enough resources in to be able to bend the will, right? And so I mentioned, we have something for this. If you had something more akin to a prediction market, you could solve some of these issues or some other issues as well. And so he offered, it's like, hey, how about if we do a Spaces? I'm like, sure. I couldn't do it tomorrow because you want to do it tomorrow evening, but when, and if, it's entirely possible that he'll get bored with the subject and not do it. But when that happens, I'll broadcast it out, and that'll be interesting because we'll be able to go through, some of the real meaty uses of blockchain tech, and it should, this audience should be interested in it.
There's something to that. So, you guys know I'm a notes contributor, right? It feels like
I am too.
It feels like it's nudged right now, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's always like really some of the ones I've noticed recently too are very like they're weighted towards and what's worse is they're not even like well researched, well referenced information.
They're like anger-inducingly bad, which is a sign that somebody's trying to fuck ridiculous.
With you. And I'm okay with some of that if it were there and I could see it, but it were obvious that the consensus is that this community node is BS, right? I'd be okay with that, because I should be able to look at it even if everybody thinks it's BS, right? But for it to be there and to call something out as wrong when it isn't wrong is kind of.
Well, I had to stop submitting new notes on like trying to call out the fact that they're trying to put cybersecurity that is 0.01% effective on crypto. Like they won't let me put that note up on the bill or for discussions about it, which I feel like people should fucking know.
Why?
All the notes that I put up are like not helpful, apparently.
Huh.
They don't want the fact tacked to that bill.
Yeah, they're doing the same as Wikipedia. It's going to turn into that, and you could go somewhere, I'm sure, and pay somebody to join. It's like, I need my
I just have to figure out
that's how Wikipedia is.
Wikipedia editing for pay. Yeah, they'd probably be able to sell it to you.
That's why Hoskinson could get them to not delist Cardano when we couldn't, because he was willing to funnel some money.
He paid a PR firm
at the table. No. He paid them. He made a donation. We went through the normal means, and then we found out, you're supposed to pay these Wikipedia editors, and they will vote because they have a vote, and you have to pay off enough of them, and you can't say shit about it. You
like
can NDA, they'll probably come sue me.
This is why the people who raise too much money still win the PR war.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's trash.
They did just introduce a bill to ban Congress and their spouses from trading stocks. So,
oh man, I thought you were going to stop right after you said Congress.
And it needs to be not civil. It needs to be criminal. It needs to be hanging penalty. Ask me. Okay, that's it.
They should just have to pay their fair share. I think they should just have to dump it all into.
I'm investing in rope, guys. I'm investing in gold, rope, and dried foods, and some seeds. That's what you need to invest in.
Yep.
That is what you need. Is going to get pumped really soon.
Yes.
And so,
I think we just have to build faster. We're going to
rope
win.
is the most fun because rope has utility.
I agree.
Along,
you
like
can swing from rope.
Speeds. Yes, rope's going to be the most valuable possession in anybody's garage in the coming years, I think. Okay, so that's everything. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you share this so that all the questioners get credited and everything else. We're short on time, so it's awesome. Thanks a bunch. See you guys next week. Bye.
Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best.
Adaptable, raw capital, label radical yet rational. A tactical approach is palpable if this animal is fallible. But that conclusion is laughable, so with for all detachable from the mandible, you see it now?